Hey there everybody, it's markcrilley. I'm back with another video. Today I'm introducing a new challenge video. I'm calling it the Customized Origami Paper Challenge, in which you have to create your own origami paper by hand, then take that piece of paper and fold an actual piece of origami from it. We'll see if anyone else is as crazy as I am to try doing this, but let's not waste any time. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, I'm using ordinary printer paper here, a little unusual for me since I ordinarily use Bristol board, something thicker, but I wanted it thin enough that I can make easy folds. And what I'm going to do is begin making this pattern that I've come up with. You've all heard of Hello Kitty. Well, I'm going to draw Hello Blushy, which is really exactly like Hello Kitty, except she has blushies on her cheeks. Oh, you know, the one thing I want to say is that, you know, I'm using printer paper in America, which is 8.5 by 11. That means that I measured one side 8.5, and then I cut it across so that it forms a perfect square. Different countries have different measurements for printer paper. Just, you know, measure the shorter of the two widths. The two widths? Are there actually two widths? Measure the width rather than the height or the breadth or the depth. Oh boy, I need more coffee. Anyway, measure the shorter of the two sides and then take the long side and cut it down a little bit so that it will be a perfect square. And if you have trouble making a perfect square, then maybe you better give up on this challenge, because frankly, that's the easiest part. It's got to be this. It's drawing and redrawing this pattern that's going to drive me slightly bonkers. Now, Hello Kitty, the character, has a very ovular kind of a shape to it. But it's not one of these ones that's narrow on the ends. A little hard to describe. Because it seems to me it sort of straightens out a little in the middle and then is quite curved. You know, sometimes an oval can be a little narrower at the ends. I guess this sort of does double as a how to draw video. It's almost a how to draw Hello Kitty video with one minor change that I will point out when I get to it. But I'm drawing one of the ears here. She's got quite a large bow. I would say one of the challenges in drawing Hello Kitty, it seems like such a simple character, and it kind of is, but if you really want to get it accurate, you're going to have to figure out the proportional system of this bow, which is a certain size. You know, you don't want to make it too large. I think most people might be inclined to make it too small. But you got a circle here in the middle. I'm enlarging it just a bit. And then this comes out here on this side. These two things slightly triangular, really more rounded than anything else. But then there's these interesting little, you know, symbolizing the curving of the ribbon. There's these two little circles here. Sort of interesting if you think about it that Hello Kitty is such a simplistic character, but they did decide, let's show the little details of how the bow, you know, how there's like a ruffle or an indentation here in the bow. Sort of interesting to me that they, it meant so much to them. We've got to make the bow realistic, gentlemen. So anyway, getting the ear not quite as pointy as you might imagine. It's sort of like a curved triangle. Skip this part if it's boring to you, but those of you who always wanted to draw the head of Hello Kitty, now's your chance. Having got that in place, here's the part where I'm slightly altering the design. I'm going to make the eyes a little higher up than they would normally be to make space for the blushies later on. Now, rest assured, I'm not going to do real time for the entire video here. I'm going to start bringing in old man Hello Kitty fan time-lapse to help me zoom through a lot of this. But I thought, yeah, maybe there would be one or two people who wanted to learn how to draw Hello Kitty, so why not do at least this one part real time? And there's no mouth, so you're off the hook there, but you do want to get the classic 3 whiskers on each side thing. They're not super long. They are very gently curved. And there's this sort of perfect symmetry, so that whatever you did over here, you're going to have to repeat it almost exactly over here, which we all know is one of the hardest things. It's easy to draw the first eye. It's impossible to draw the second eye. As you're trying to match the thing that you already did, and that's what makes that second one so much harder. Anyway, so that gives us Hello Kitty. Now I'm going to zip through this next part. I'm going to write the sort of logo. Instead of Hello Kitty, it's going to say Hello Blushy. All right, and there is, of course, a certain style to the lettering that you see there. If you want to do a sort of a parody piece of origami paper, or indeed imitate the logo of any product, you do have to pay careful attention to the shape of the lettering. I wanted it to be perfectly centered. Not so perfectly centered, but too late now, folks. I'm not going to redo it. I would sort of like to redo this part of the cheek, though. It sort of looks a little bit off. It does show you sometimes the simpler a character is, the harder it can be to get it perfectly right, because there's so few lines, you get one of them wrong and it sticks out like a sore thumb. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and begin inking with just an ordinary artist's pen here, the Pigma Micron. I'm not going to do all of this real time, but I thought I'd let you see the degree to which I'm trying to do each line with a single stroke of the pen. I do not have the paper taped down to the desk this time. I want to be able to take advantage of the natural pivot point of my wrist, and that's why I've left it loose so that I can sort of turn it around. Sometimes people say, is it okay to move the paper? And to which I say, oh, of course, if it helps you, it's definitely okay. Don't feel like you're supposed to keep the paper all in one place all the time. That being said, maybe turning the paper is not helpful for you. I mean, everyone has their own way of doing things, so don't think that there's sort of rules and regulations about how to do this. Well, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and finish off doing the line work. You're going to see me do all of the black part of the lines up here, and then I'm going to switch to, I guess it's a Pantone here, Latrace it, to do the red of the logo and coloring in the ribbon. Okay, so that sort of wraps that part of it up. You might have noticed that I used a little yellow colored pencil for the nose. I didn't realize that Kitty's nose was yellow until I started paying a little closer attention to the design. Well, now, here comes the fun part. Fun part? Who am I kidding? This isn't going to be fun. I have to redraw this. What I want to do is sort of tilt it in different directions so as to create a pattern. And then I'll be back to do one final thing to finish it off before we get into the origami fold. All right, well, we finally completed this. Now, some people might look at this whole project and say, why didn't you just scan one of them into the computer and cut and paste and spin them around? It would have saved you a lot of time. But this is the challenge part, folks. This is what makes it a challenge. It is a challenge of endurance. Can you stay focused and keep at it? Now, I said it's going to be Hello Blushy, so of course that means I need to add the blushies throughout the entire pattern. And as always, I sort of saved that till last. But I want to show you, before I finish doing all of the blushies, which I will do certainly in time-lapse, I wanted to show you my plan, which was to take this white background and use a pink marker to sort of darken this in. I think this is going to go a long way towards making this look like real origami paper from a distance. And, you know, part of the fun of this project, I think, would be once you've folded the origami object, whatever it is that you make, from a distance it will look just like ordinary origami paper, but closer inspection will reveal that you have customized it so specifically to your own personal obsessions. that you couldn't have possibly have bought this paper at the store. But who knows, maybe I will make Hello Blushy origami paper professionally someday. For now, there is only one sheet in all the world, and I am about to use it in just a moment to fold a paper flower. But for now, let me go ahead and finish up with adding this and the blushies throughout, and we'll be back to actually do the origami. Alright, so at long last I have completed my customized Hello Blushy origami paper, and I'm going to show you now how to fold one of my favorite origami pieces. It is a paper flower, and it's surprisingly three-dimensional looking. If you want to try to follow along, you don't need to have made your own paper. Just get a square piece of paper of your own making, or indeed buying origami paper, and you should be able to follow along with me. Now I'm flipping it over so that I'm on the other side of it now, the part that I don't need anyone to see. And I'm making a bit of a triangle here as I take one corner and fold it to the opposite corner. Now with origami, not that I'm going to suddenly turn this into an origami channel. This will probably be the last time. I don't know. It depends on how this goes. But for those of you who've never done it before, precision pays off. If you're very careful about getting those corners to touch, you will be rewarded with a better final product. Now I'm going in here and creasing this as best I can. The more you make these folds nice and crisp, the better the finished product will be. Now I'm taking the remaining corners of the triangle, folding them over to touch. Now those of you who have done origami before, you will recognize quite a lot of this initial part of the fold as being what's known as the crane fold, which is the basis of a great many origami folds, but it is going to diverge at one point. Now if you take one side of this as you sort of lift it up and stick a finger in like so, you can open it up, make sure you get all the way down there so that you can pop it open and then begin coaxing it down. This is kind of tricky. I don't want to make this look easier than it actually is. If you've never done it before, you may find that it's a little tricky to do. Could help to start flattening this just a little bit here, but really what you're trying to do is get this point to come right down and touch that point, like so. And then you can flatten both sides until it becomes a square. Easier said than done, but if you have trouble, go ahead and hit pause. In fact, I'm going to come over here. I'm flipping the whole thing over. I always like to sort of prop this up just a little bit to get it separate from the other side. And we're going to do the exact same thing a second time. Again, I think maybe flattening just a little here at the tip might help as you, as I say, coaxing it down, trying to get that tip to come all the way down here. And yeah, this is, to me, a very miraculous fold. I always think, boy, someone had to come up with this the first time. And that's like genius to me. How do you figure out a fold like that without someone teaching it to you? Now, here's an important thing. If you want to keep following along, make sure that the opening part is toward the bottom. Okay? Kind of get it like a diamond shape with the opening toward the bottom. Then I like to call this part a sort of a kite fold, because as I fold this in and have this edge line up right with that center crease, if I do this on both sides, the shape reminds me of a kite. Right? This shape here. But you're doing, a lot of times in origami, you're doing the same thing twice or 4 times. So if you fold in on this side, you're folding in on the other side as well. Again, I'm creasing extra hard here. And then, you don't have to do this, but I think it helps a lot for the next step, is take the top part of the kite shape, and fold it down. This is just a preparatory fold. You're going to unfold it immediately, but I find getting that little extra crease in there is going to help a lot with this next fold, which is kind of incredible, really, that someone figured this out. But if you've opened this up, and you can keep this part of it laying flat, and then just lift the very outside part of it right here. That's just the very first part of the sheet. Here's where it really begins to open up. Now it gets a little tricky here at this point because you're trying to get this to reverse itself. You're trying to get that line to reverse itself. And someone who does origami makes this look really easy. If you've never done it before, it can seem quite challenging. I'm going to take it back a second to show you, how we got the kite and so forth, folding that. Then this very upper sheet, lifting. Make sure this stays down, this top part right across here. And then you can begin reversing these two folds, and it becomes this very long diamond shape. All right, hope that makes sense. I'm trying to see this from the point of view of someone who has never done origami before, and that's why I'm taking it extra slow. I'm trying to walk you through it. And guess what? You flip it over, you're going to do the exact same thing. This time I'm going to do it in time lapse. All right, so there you have it. Both sides have got this the sort of flappy points at the top, and I guess you could think of these as legs here at the bottom. If you've got it the other way around, it's going to be hard for you to follow what I do next, okay? And very simple. This will be one of the simplest things we do. We just take this side, fold it open like so. Okay, that's all you're doing is folding it open to the other side. Then you're going to flip the entire thing over, and you're doing the exact same thing, just folding one piece of it open. And that way, I suppose you could say the leg things seem to be at the top now after you've done that. Now, I'm not going to pretend that this next part is easy, because it's very challenging, and those of you who, even those of you who know how to fold a paper crane, you will maybe not recognize this. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here, because this is fairly tricky what I'm about to do, but boy, it pays off in the end. It'll be worth it, I promise. All right, so I'm starting to open this area here, and see that crease right there, that line? You're trying to get this just in this upper section to sort of line up with that, okay? It's going to be impossible for it to go all the way down like that. But what we're trying to do is to get 3 points. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now watch this. If I get pressure going on these 3 points, little by little, this starts to flatten out. And there's no real rule as to where the triangle ends up being as it flattens out. You just sort of do your best judgment to get that to slowly squish down. Doesn't need to be perfect. But if you can get that to happen with this lined up in the middle, I'm going to flip it around because we're going to be doing the exact same thing over here. Again, starting with this part here, I'm aligning it with the center. And then here, maybe this will help you see where you want to get one finger to apply pressure here, another one here, and then another here. You get this 3-way point of pressure so that little by little it flattens out. Now, if you found that hard to do, I don't blame you. I think what I'll do is stick with the real time because it is kind of tricky. I'll do it because we have to do it 4 times in all. This time I'm going to gradually pick up the pace and show you how it ends up happening when when you've done it 100 times like I have. Little by little, believe it or not, it starts to come naturally to you, and you can do it fairly quickly. And I know that might have been tricky for some of you, but folks, we are going to be rewarded with a very cool fold later on if you can achieve that part of it. And I'm sort of pulling back the focus a bit here so that you can see these next 2 folds, incredibly simple. Just take the bottom, fold it all the way up to the top. In fact, you're in the home stretch now, and there are no really difficult folds from here on out, I would say, except for maybe the very final one. I'm flipping, that was from the bottom to the top, I'm flipping this over and folding this up here. Sorry for the sound of garbage people's trucks going by. If you can hear that if you're wearing headphones. You know, it always happens when I'm doing this video. The garbage trucks come by. Now that we've got on all sides these things pointing up towards the top, this is where we begin to take this very top point of just one of them, fold it all the way down here until it's pretty close to the bottom, and then just flatten it. A comparatively simple fold. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to do the same thing here, folding it all the way down like so. And just so that I can fold these other two the same way, I'm going to kind of open up here, allowing me to do the exact same thing here. Again, you're using the bottom as your sort of stopping point for that, and then you can go ahead and do a crease right across there. And as I did before, I'm going to kind of open up again to get to this other one so that I can fold that all the way down. And we are very near the end, folks. Those of you who have persevered, you are about to be rewarded with what I think is a pretty cool looking paper flower. Okay, now you saw me fold that down, and I'm opening that back up again so that you end up with something kind of like this. It can be opened up until you have, 4 different sections here. And if you take your thumb and forefinger of both hands and hold down here, very near the middle, okay? This is the reward. You begin to sort of pull open. And I like to sort of rotate it as I open it. I'm pulling it open here at the bottom. It's important. I don't think it's so good to do it at the top. I find it's helpful to do it at the bottom. And as I continue rotating it, opening a little more, there you see that flower shape. And I think it's one of the coolest origami folds. I didn't invent it, of course not. I learned all this from a book years ago. And there you have it, the one-of-a-kind Hello Blushy paper flower. Let me know what you thought of this, folks. I know this is not an origami channel, it's a how to draw channel, but I always like to spice it up a little, do something new, do something unexpected. And that's exactly what I was doing today. Hang on a second, I'm going to go grab my books so that I can say thank you to those of you who have supported me by getting them. We've got Brody's Ghost and Minky Falls, my 2 graphic novel series, The Realism Challenge, my book on hyper-realistic illustrations, The Drawing Lesson, a graphic novel that teaches you how to draw, and my very latest book, Mastering Manga 3. I really cannot adequately express how much gratitude I feel toward the people who support me by getting those books. But let's go ahead and bring back this folded paper blushy flower. Let me know what you thought of this video. I had fun doing it. Of course, it will not be a regular occurrence, but I'd love to see if anyone else takes up the customized origami paper challenge. I'd love to see the patterns that you come up with, and indeed the folds that you choose to do with your creation. But let's go ahead and wind down this video. I want to thank you all for watching it. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another one real soon.